Actually get the waterfall in place. And that should fit. Next one. Talk to you then.
I think we'll probably use the drill a little bit, but because we don't want to just go down. And I know, it's, you see, set our whole tank is just going to go sieve and then rinse it off with a hose and then have it slope so the sand.
So think about cliffs. Think about the way that rock formations kind of jut out. You've got those little underwater. I can show you how to do that. So we have Plastidip. Now let's see if we can add some sand.
What you do is carve into the foam a little bit.
Tank. Now let's go ahead and 4-inch layer.
Top of the pipe.
This will be the top of the pipe. Now you've got to remember this is going to go through. The reason we're doing this,
through the hose down into the air stone to our waterfall area. We have a spot marked off here and we need to carve into the foam and then
sand and air to create an optical illusion underwater. And I added a pet. His name is Steve. Should we get to actually see if and what that does is move them, but I can get them in there. The waterfall itself.
Into it, we're just gonna carve it out a little bit and we now need to add sort of like angled hole aiming cloudy.
All right, so it's been at least 48 hours and
now this is pretty cool. You can see that even though we've been pumping the sand, the water has stayed pretty.
Is that the top of the pipe will go through and then we're gonna have a lip. We'll explain that later.
To clean our sand. There's pretty big bubbles and the goal is to actually to get the oxygen to.
The reason why, so when the water in the underwater water snug into place, I'm going to teach you how you can make your own underwater waterfall.
Mist spray bottle just has some warm water in it and this can help.
Let's see if I can even get these. We made like a little cave. I want to see if I can. The drop, we've already got that set. Now what we need is we need a feedback loop.
We need to pour it out the top. But right now, we'll recess this whole area back in so that the water. When it gets surrounded by sand, the air bubbles flying up will lift some.
Overhangs, things like that. Now it's decorative.
We've got a
is figure out exactly how high we want this to be. This is upside down, just so you know this is.
Our X-Acto knife wasn't.
All right, let's make it pretty. Maybe the best way to do that is actually to carve from the back again. We're gonna
by 11 1/4.
Break off a few bamboo skewers so that everything stays in place, so that when we some expanding foam for the same reason, so we have more room to. We pop this out, nothing moves, so that we glue it in the right position. And
there by itself, but
we have got some ridge
sand. It's not going to get not sandy, but what we're trying to do is drill a hole in this
yes.
so that our hose can actually be threaded down into it.
Exactly.
And make it really hard to see through. So let's take a look.
Beautiful. It's actually going to go in, then we can start aesthetically carving.
And up here we'll
assembled our tank. We have read online. It says that if we can coat this well enough, lose that amount of PVC.
Take quite a while before it's ready to be carved. So can flow.
Go and lift it up. Let's see. We've got a nice
back down to the bottom of that pipe.
Trial and error has taught me. Where the waterfall itself goes, add a little. Now our expanding foam is very dry. So now it's ready to be carved. That's what I've got. So pipes and a piece. What it looks like is a water. To painting something like this, you don't have to break the bank. Couple this, yes. Am I gonna jerry rig it?
I think we're pretty much ready to go on that. So next step is to make it look like rocks. We've got some.
Okay, so we have got our backing. We've got our.
Be nice and clear, and that's because we did a lot of work to down a little bit. So
the water is a little cloudy right now. I may have forgotten to rinse the rocks that I got, so that we know where the.
So it doesn't end up floating up. The back of our tank is going to have one piece of foam that runs a ways, and then it's going to turn at a little. Sand is going to land
here because we know that we want the waterfall.
So there's going to be some tricky angles going on here.
More options you have for carving it out. And if you go a little bit overboard, that's fine. This is
side of our PVC pipe. We'll open that up as well.
Come out of this area, then we're going to force something living in this tank. You don't want foam.
Here for decorative effect.
Okay, so we had
cure like over the weekend before we start cutting into it. In the meantime, we've got some mechanical point into our PVC pipe. looks like we need to go to about 11 1/4 inches.
Into it really nicely. Makes it a lot easier than trying to add a waterfall. It's really cool. And today when you have an L bracket, there's about a 3/4 inch lip there. See L bend? I don't want to kill your fish. So we can even show you. Then after that we will add, this is good for a 20 to 30 gallon tank. We're using a 10-gallon tank. We're not, so this actually has 2 pumps, but I'm only using, so then which
it was really difficult for us to squish it down into the tank, but now that it's in there, it's in. If we didn't have the air stone, all of the bubbles just come out here, our pump, or the
aquarium tubing. This is what is called an air stone, and some sand. So now we're gonna cut our PVC to about,
no sand could get to it, so we need to give the sand an access.
Really, really good box cutter knife, and the foam, and the glue gun. And to our latest video, and that box at the bottom is,
that's because we've washed all of the dirt and silt off of the sand. We just have the larger grains.
The 3.5
bracket,
yes.
And we need to.
We have a double hose for this air pump. We're gonna start with 1, see if we need more power than that. I'm gonna
water, and it's small enough that you can have it in your house. We're gonna be using air to lift the sand, so this tube and stone will go inside.
At our expanding foam.
And this is a little
insulation foam, some PVC really going anywhere. However,
of that sand with it, and then that gets.
Yes. What? You want a strong.
This is what I use. It's up even more.
So here's the basic idea. With some supplies from your local hardware, close you want the pump to your tank. So I like to give it a little bit of room, which is actually good. We want to carve this up to make it look like rocks. We want to add.
Now, if we had this air stone inside the PVC.
This is going to be what actually causes the airflow to bring our waterfall up and just.
Make the foam cure just a little bit faster.
A waterfall that can even get these in here now. Oh yeah, okay. I will never be able.
We're gonna actually let this in getting shot out the front, and we don't want it shooting, we want it falling. So what we
a bit. Okay.
Sand
so you
is
can
falling.
See it. Animals. Now, don't take my word for it.
Add some anchors on the bottom. We want to try and make sure that it's pretty snug so it holds itself in place for this cut. So I'm just using a saw.
Yes, they are in the corner. I know that seems a little bit odd.
Out that direction at about 45 degrees.
As far as.
Here's the plan. Acrylic paint dries pretty quick, but we want to speed that process and hits that sloped portion and just gets angled down. Now it needs to be made to fit kind of right here.
Start here, we're gonna make a little mark, we're gonna carve upward, and then once we figure out where that's gonna come up, not just using the 2-inch piece of rigid insulation foam, just
dissolve into the water.
We're catch our waterfall without it being, so you wanna make sure you do that first so you get a correct measurement. Now what we're gonna do, guys, that's not all, we've always got more.
So 14.
Just doesn't work. So to begin with, we're gonna need our bamboo skewers, a ringer pump. Even if this doesn't.
Foam is gonna end up floating a lot on water if we just put it in. I'm Nate.
And I'm Callie.
It's clear again.
Be watching next, and if you're not subscribed, hit that bomb in the middle. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next. It's not a hard stuff to carve, so we can fix that in minutes.
Fix it. It takes about 2 seconds.
So a couple inches out of the water, but that's fine. Industrial Velcro strips that you can put on the bottom of this to hold this in place. However,
we've added some spray water to try and
go get the water tested. And if everything works out, it should be all right to go.
Nothing to murk up the water. So that's what we need to do with our sand before running it through.
This tank has,
but also because we need to hide some of the hardware behind it. Straight through, we're not gonna drill like a tunnel. Air pump is designed to just, it pumps air.
The lip that's gonna hold it in place.
We made this very close fitting to the size of the tank.
Is actually very cloudy water. Too coarse of a sand, and what you're gonna end up with is going to be, so placement. We kind of formed this little ledge here. Okay. The reason why is because form sort of a pool for everything to fall in store, and pet store, you can use at that point. We're gonna go ahead and add the sand first, and then we're gonna fill this with water, see what happens. You can kind of see where we've got our tube going down.
So we're gonna put it in front of.
Want it all to kind of gather in this little triangle. The point of an air stone is that it
The water gets really murky. You swirl it around a little bit.
water flow. That's actually decent. See how high you can lift it up and still get a water flow. Okay, we're gonna make sure everything looks nice and decorated all. Next part is just making sure it's seen.
This piece is the same height, so it should fit nicely, but
the supplies that we have here are actually available at most local stores. Okay, so far so good.
high, but we are gonna have some attachment points on the bottom that should add a little bit of thickness.
And with that, we can start assembling.
We carve like a receiving pool where all this tank does have this sort of lip along the top edge. And so even though we're gonna
bamboo skewers, the great stuff, if all gathers, it's gonna come down at an angle. You wanna make sure it can all be caught. Now this will,
and the water is getting murky. That's what we're trying to remove. So we're gonna pour all this sand into a fall, has more area to fall. Hopefully we'll try and make it look like rock. There, I'm quite confident we'll be able to fill this with water.
yeah, and then it's gonna fall back so that we have a full circular system.
All the air.
Let's try it.
And you can see that when I add water to it,
We're gonna carve that out. We're gonna add in our pump system and then,
but even if we just get the sand swirling up a bit, it immediately settles back down. And
for you to see, this box up at the top will take you, of course, be in here. It's gonna be a little bit easier, but gives you an idea.
it's full of water.
Place. Yes, they're not perfect.
A lot of foam on here, and even though
That should be enough, so let's go and test it out. Just hold the PVC piece in place. So when you put it in, you multiple times with plastic dip, it should be safe for aquatic animals. Yes. An air pump,
parts we can build.
we're actually gonna build the pump itself. Seem stronger. Some of our larger ones we also painted gold, just for pretty low. The more foam that you have, the more
To blow dry my hair every morning. First step is to measure and cut our rigid insulation foam. The post.
we'll do that side about there, and then I'll have waterfall, but it's already let the water set.
Plug it
And plenty of room to
on the ground. No, quite long enough.
or anything like that. And you were to put in an actual filtration system, that'd be gone. Expanding foam that's gonna take a week to dry. All right, we've got in an hour. You won't have any problems. All right, so we have So not all tank pumps are created equal. This is just as a decoration in your living room. If somebody sees this from across the room, it really does look like an underwater a little bit more. And just enough. The hardware that we're hiding is a 1-inch piece of PVC. It has to be able to fit in here. And now we're covered in it. This whole thing is gonna stay submerged and it'll be nice and quiet. So now it comes down to how
Off our sand to get only the size of particles that we want. This is some of our unwashed.
thing is if you were going to be putting this works.
Let's try it.
So you can obviously tell when you get up close that it is sand, but
It was remove the extra small particles that would just float throughout the water.
carve, we need these two pieces to never come apart. So now we gotta glue them together.
Seems pretty sealed.
All right. So you want to be able to choose how your waterfall is going to. Once you do this, now everything that I have. So to remind you that the piece oxygenates the water, it makes it a little bit easier for the fish themselves to, be happy.
This fan.
It fits down and you don't end up with a kink in the line. That will cause the airflow to. Once you let it dry, once everything seems like it's working and you have a filtration system running for a couple of days.
In today's video, we're building an optical illusion. It looks like a waterfall, but it's underwater. At how we can clean up sand.
If you were to coat this so it was safe for a fish, all of our supplies, so let's start assembling.
The first sand will be coming up. We've got our foam carved out to look like rock. Good shapes, but we don't have good colors. I think it's time to paint this.
So when it comes
Speed up the cure time, it's gonna take a
down now, we're what YouTube thinks you should
little bit of an angle, and we're gonna use that turn part.
for stability's sake. This is also because you can carve in
Let's do it.
one. So is there a correct way to cut it? Too fine of a grit, and what you're gonna get instead of a nice, beautiful waterfall is not the way it goes.
Measuring purposes only.
Yes.
Is that so? That's the height of it.
An acrylic, that's bad. You how that's gonna fit into place, how it's gonna work, and even give it a test run.
Now we can see that
These are, of course, just regular acrylic paint that you can get at any craft store. Now, the important thing.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Totally Tubular Man 66. Today I'm coming out with a brand new video. We're gonna be reacting to a person who reacted to Dylan the Dead's video. And it was pretty good, man. People wanted me to react to it, so that's what we're gonna do today. Let's get right into the news and the video. Cool.